The cry that changed everything. The streets of Zarek were cold and silent. Long ago, this alien planet was full of life and color. Now, it was dry, broken, and full of shadows. Tall gray buildings stood like dead trees. Markets were empty. The air smelled of metal and old smoke. People didn't talk much anymore. They kept their heads low. They moved fast, like they were running from hope. In a corner of this broken city, a little girl sat alone. Her skin was blue-gray. Her clothes were torn. Her large eyes were full of tears, but she made no sound. She just cried, silently, hugging her knees in the dust. Her kind, the Ticans, were once proud and smart. Now they were treated like dirt. The powerful races had taken everything from them. Their homes, their jobs, their history. And now, no one gave them even a crumb. Aliens of other races passed by her. Rich ones, loud ones, soldiers, traders. No one looked down at her. She was just another forgotten soul in a forgotten world. But then, someone stopped at. It was a human. He was tall, with a dark coat and heavy boots. His eyes were calm but sharp, like he had seen too much and trusted too little. He walked like a man who didn't fear death, or maybe just didn't care. His name was Kale. He had come to Zarek for a trade deal, nothing more. He had no friends here, no plan to help anyone. He was not a hero, but he heard something, a small sound, not loud, but deep, the sound of a child's sorrow, a sound that didn't ask for help, but still hurt to hear. Kale turned. He saw the little girl, still crying, still alone. He looked around. No one else noticed. No one cared. He slowly walked to her and knelt down. "Hey," he said in a soft voice. "Are you hurt?" The girl didn't answer. She was shaking, but she didn't look up. She was afraid. Everyone who came close before had shouted, or hit, or taken. But Kale didn't touch her. He just opened his bag and took out something. A small food bar. It wasn't much, but it was clean. It was real. He placed it near her feet and stood back. "You don't have to take it," he said. "But it's yours if you want it." The girl looked up slowly. Her eyes met his. Something changed. She reached out with shaking hands and took the food. She didn't say thank you. She just nodded once, very slowly, like she didn't even know what thank you meant anymore. Kale stood there for a moment, then turned to walk away. But voices behind him made him stop. "Hey, human," a merchant shouted. "You feeding rats now?" Others laughed. "Careful," said another. "You give one crumb to a take-on, 10 more come to beg." Kale looked at them, his face calm. "She's a child," he said. "Not a rat," the merchant snorted. "Same thing. Their kind is weak, dirty. You'll regret wasting food." Kale said nothing. But something inside him moved. A memory. Long ago, on a different world, there was a war. Kale had been a child. His village was destroyed. He remembered sitting in the dirt, cold and hungry, watching people walk past him. Most people didn't care. But one soldier had stopped, gave him bread, gave him hope. That small moment had changed his life. Now, here he was, doing the same. He turned back to the girl. "Where's your family?" he asked. She looked down. Her voice was almost a whisper. "Gone." Kale's jaw tightened. He looked at the broken buildings, the angry faces, the hopeless eyes all around. "What happened here?" he asked aloud. An old Ticon woman nearby heard him. Her face was thin, but her eyes still had fire. "What happened?" she said. "We were broken, forgotten, left to die." Kale looked at her, then at the girl again. Something was wrong here. Something big. And no one seemed to care. He took a deep breath. "I want to speak to the council," he said. This time, everyone laughed. "You," a guard said. "You think the council will listen to a human trader?" But Kale didn't smile. He looked at the little girl again. "Then they'll listen when I make them." The wind on Zarek blew harder that day. It carried the smell of rust, fuel, and broken dreams. Kale stood in the street, his boots pressed into the dirt. Around him, aliens muttered and whispered. Some laughed at him, some looked confused. No one stepped forward to help. The little girl still sat on the ground, chewing slowly on the food bar Kale had given her. Her small hands held it like it was treasure. Kale looked at her. "Do you have a name?" he asked. She nodded, barely. Her voice was so soft it almost disappeared in the wind. "Sarah, Sarah," Kale repeated. "Where do you live?" She didn't answer. "Does anyone take care of you?" She shook her head. That was enough. Kale turned to the nearest guard. "Take me to the council, now." The guard, A tall, red-scaled alien with sharp yellow eyes raised an eyebrow. Why would a human care what happens to take on trash? Kale stepped closer. Because someone should. The guard grinned. You're not from here, human. You don't understand. These creatures don't matter. They lost their place in the stars long ago. That doesn't mean they should starve, Kale said. They're used to it, the guard replied. Let them fade. You can't fix this place. I'm not trying to fix the whole world, Kale said. Just help one girl. The guard laughed and pointed toward the large dome at the end of the street. Council won't listen to you. But go ahead. Try, maybe they'll throw you off the planet. Kale didn't answer. He looked down at Sarah. Stay here, he said gently. I'll come back. She looked at him, unsure. Her big, sad eyes said more than words ever could. The council building was made of black stone. Old, cracked, and covered in banners that meant nothing anymore. Kale walked past 2 guards and straight into the main chamber. Inside, 6 aliens sat around a half-circle table. All were powerful. All wore silk robes and gold rings. None of them looked pleased to see him. One leaned forward. A female with silver skin and eyes like ice. You are not welcome here, human. I know, Kale said. But I'm here anyway. State your purpose. I saw a child in the street. A girl. Starving. Alone. You all walked past her. The council members glanced at each other, and one said, Why is that our concern? You're in charge of this planet, Kale said. You let people suffer while you sit in this room with full bellies. That is not your business. It became my business when I heard her cry. The room went silent. Then the silver-eyed woman laughed. Typical human drama. Always thinking your feelings matter here. Kale took a step forward. You think letting people die quietly makes you strong. You think ignoring a child makes you powerful. You're cowards. Guards stepped forward. The council members stood. You should leave, one warned. Before your voice becomes a problem. Kale smiled coldly. Good, I hope it becomes a problem. He left the building with slow, angry steps. His fists were clenched. His jaw was tight. Outside, Sarah was gone. Panic hit him fast. He looked around. The alley, the street, the empty crates nearby. Sarah, he shouted. No answer. He ran to a nearby stall. Have you seen a take-on girl? Small gray clothes. The shopkeeper shrugged. Could be dead. Could be taken. Taken. Many disappear. Sold. Used. It's not my problem. Kale's blood ran cold. He ran through the streets, calling her name. He passed hungry faces, broken homes, and cold stares. Then, behind a crate, he heard a cough. He found her, hiding in the shadows. She was holding another child, even smaller. A boy with weak arms and dull eyes. Kale knelt beside them. Who is this? My brother, Sarah said. He doesn't walk much. You didn't tell me about him. You didn't ask, she said. Kale picked the boy up carefully. He was light, too light. Skin and bones. We're getting both of you out of here, Kale said. Where? Sarah asked. Somewhere safe. There is no safe, she whispered. Kale looked at her seriously. There will be. I promise. He took them to his ship, hidden near the trade zone. On the way, people stared. A few spat on the ground. One merchant shouted, taking pets. Human. Kale ignored them. Inside the ship, he gave them clean water, food, and blankets. Sarah held her brother close, as if afraid this was a dream. Kale sat down across from them. You're not like the others, Sarah said softly. Kale stared at the floor. Once, I was like you. Alone. Cold. Waiting for someone to care. Did someone help you? Yes, he said. One man. He didn't say much. Just gave me food. Gave me a reason to keep going. Sarah blinked. So now you help others. Kale nodded. Because if no one cares, then what's the point of any of this? She was quiet. Then, for the first time, she smiled. Just a little. Kale stood. Rest now. Tomorrow, we change everything. The next morning on Zarek was quiet. Too quiet. The sky was still gray. The streets were still broken. But something had changed. Kale stood at the edge of his ship, arms crossed, eyes focused. Behind him, Sarah and her little brother slept on soft blankets for the first time in their lives. He had given them safety, but he knew it wouldn't last. He had seen it before. How systems react when someone breaks the rules. And here, on this planet, kindness was the biggest crime. A knock echoed from outside. Kale turned. A guard in dark red armor stood by the door. You have visitors, the guard said coldly. Kale stepped out. 3 alien officers waited for him, tall, armored, and not smiling. The leader, a short but wide alien with golden tattoos, stepped forward. "You are Kale, human trader." "That's right. You fed a Ticon. You sheltered 2 more. That's against Regulation 7C of Zarek's social order." Kale raised an eyebrow. Regulation 7C. No unauthorized aid to unregistered. Kale folded his arms. "So, helping starving kids is illegal now." The officer didn't blink. "We are not here to argue. You are being warned. Stop your interference. Leave this planet. Today." Kale looked back at the ship, at the sleeping children. "No, the guards shifted. One of them stepped closer. "You don't understand," the officer said, his voice sharper now. "This planet survives because we keep order. Helping them breaks that order." "Your order is built on silence," Kale replied. "On letting children die in the street. They are weak. Their time is over." "Then why are you afraid of them?" Kale asked. The officer froze. "You fear what they used to be. What they could become again. You speak too much. Human. You listen too little." The officer pointed at him. "Final warning. If you interfere again, we will remove you by force." The guards turned and walked away. But Kale didn't move. He looked up at the sky. This wasn't just about food or kindness. This was about control and fear. Later that day, Kale walked into the old quarter. No guards followed him this time, but he felt eyes on his back. He entered a small building. It looked like a shop, but inside, it was empty. Dust covered the shelves. Broken screens blinked slowly on the walls. At the back, an old Ticon woman sat alone. Her back was bent, but her eyes were sharp. "You came," she said. "I wasn't sure you would." "You said they fear what they once did," Kale said. "What did you mean?" The woman stood with a slow breath. "Long ago, before the Empire came, we were builders, creators. Our minds were strong. Our hands made great machines. And now they feed us lies. They say we are lazy, useless. But they fear the truth." "What truth?" "That we still remember. Deep down, in our bones, in our dreams." She walked to a wall and pressed a hidden button. A section slid open, revealing a small chamber. "Below." "Come," she said. Kale followed her down. In the hidden room, old tools and devices sat on dusty tables. Some still blinked with soft light. "This place was built by my grandfather," she said. "We hide our history here, because if the Empire knew, they'd burn it all." Kale picked up a small cube. It glowed in his hand. "It still works," he said. "Some of it," she replied. "Enough to prove we were more than they say." Kale nodded. "We could use this." "No," she said. "You are not con. Why do you care what happens to us?" He looked at her. "When I was 10, I lost everything. War came to my planet. My family died. I sat in the dirt, hungry and cold, just like Sarah. No one stopped." He held the cube tighter, except one man, a soldier. He gave me food, a coat, and hope. I never forgot that moment. Now, it's my turn." The old woman smiled. "Then maybe it's our turn too." That night, Kale sat with Sarah and her brother in the ship. He showed them the cube. "This," he said, "is from your people. Before the Empire took everything." Sarah touched it gently. "It's warm," she said. "It still remembers." Kale replied. Sarah looked up at him. "Can we fight them?" Kale didn't answer right away. "You don't have to fight like they do," he said. "You can fight by remembering, by learning, by building again." Sarah smiled, not the sad smile from before, a real one. "I want to learn," she said. Her brother nodded slowly. "Then we start now," Kale said. "But we'll need more help." Sarah tilted her head. "From who?" Kale stared out the window. "From the ones hiding in the shadows. From the ones who are afraid to speak. We wake them up. And if the Empire finds out," she asked. Kale smiled. "Then they'll learn what happens when you try to bury people who remember how to rise." The sun on Zarek barely touched the ground. Thick clouds of smoke hung in the air like a warning. But Kale kept walking, one step at a time, through the ruins of a forgotten part of the city. Old buildings stood like bones, broken and silent. Doors were ripped from their hinges. Windows were cracked. Plants grew through the floors. This place had not seen life in many years. Kale moved carefully. Behind him, Sarah followed. Her little brother stayed back at the ship with the old woman. Sarah had insisted on coming. "I want to know what we were," she said. "Before all this." Kale understood the map from the cube had led them here, an old Ticon library, buried in dust. The door was half covered in rubble. Kale pushed it open with effort. The air inside was dry, still, and heavy with memory. Rows of shelves stood in the dark, most fallen. Old data panels blinked weakly. Some screens showed static, some were dead. But the walls were painted with strange symbols and faded pictures. Sarah gasped. "This place is real," she whispered. "It's more than real," Cale said. "It's proof." They stepped deeper inside. In the center of the room, a large round table sat under a cracked glass dome. On it lay dozens of memory cubes, all covered in dust. Cale picked one up, wiped it, and tapped the surface. Nothing. He tried another. Static. Then a flash. A soft voice echoed from the cube. "Female comm. To whoever finds this. We tried to warn them. The council betrayed us. The machines are buried. The future is hidden now." Then silence. Sarah looked at Cale. "What machines?" Cale looked around the room, heart beating faster. Something important. Something they didn't want the Empire to find. He began checking the other cubes. Most were dead. Some were too damaged, but one near the back was still glowing faintly blue. He pressed it. A new voice spoke. Older. Deeper. "They called us builders. Dreamers. We built ships that bent space. We made clean energy from light. We never needed war. But they came anyway. They said we were dangerous. Because we did not obey." The cube shook in Cale's hand. Sparks flew. Then it went dark. Sarah looked up at him. "They erased all of this." Cale nodded. "The Empire didn't just take your food or homes. They took your past. Because they feared your future." He stepped to the back of the room, where a metal door sat behind a collapsed beam. "Help me move this." Together, they pushed until the door was clear. Cale forced it open. Inside was a small room filled with old tools, machines, and strange parts. Many were broken. But in the corner, under a dusty cover, something large hummed softly. Cale pulled the cloth off. It was a drone shaped, like a bird, with wings of polished metal and glowing blue eyes. Sarah gasped. "It's beautiful." Cale touched it gently. "It still has power." After all these years, he found a panel and opened it. A soft light blinked inside. He connected a small scanner to it and waited. The screen showed T-con code, lines of it. Cale smiled. "This drone was part of a defense system," he said. "Not for war, for protection. Smart, fast, and powered by light. They were built to shield cities, not destroy them." "Why didn't they use them when the Empire came?" Sarah asked. "They never got the chance," Cale said. "The council betrayed them. Sold them out before the people could resist." He stood and looked around. "These machines, these cubes, they're your proof. When others say your people are lazy, weak, or stupid, you show them this." Sarah stared at the drone, her eyes shining. "We could fix it, right?" she asked. "We could bring them back." "Maybe not all at once," Cale said. "But one is enough to start a fire." He reached for another tool. But suddenly, a loud crash echoed outside. Then voices. Guards. Cale grabbed Sarah's hand. "We're not alone." They ran back to the main room. Shadows moved past the windows. Flashlights. Boots. "They followed us," Sarah whispered. Cale pulled out a small device and placed it on the drone. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Marking the location. If they take it, I'll know where." They slipped out the back just before the guards entered the front. From a distance, Cale watched them storm the library. One guard shouted, "Secure everything. If the human touched it, burn it." Sarah's hands clenched. "They want to destroy our past again." Cale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we make sure the truth doesn't stay buried this time." The drone was gone. When Cale and Sarah returned to their ship, the tracking signal blinked red. The Empire had taken the drone from the library and moved it to the central military station. "They didn't burn it," Cale said. "They want to study it." Sarah looked at the blinking map. "Will they use it against us?" "Maybe. Or they'll destroy it after learning what they can. Either way, we can't let them keep it." Inside the ship, Sarah's brother coughed again. He was awake but weak. The old T-con woman gave him water, then looked at Cale. "They know your face now. You should leave this planet." Cale shook his head. "Not yet." "Why stay? You've done enough. You gave them food, shelter." Cale looked at the girl and her brother. "That's not enough. Not until they can stand without me." The woman sighed. "Then you need help. More than just these two." "I know," Cale said. "It's time others join us." That night, Cale walked through the slums of Zarek. He moved in shadows, staying low. His face was covered, his steps quiet. Around him, the poor slept in doorways and under bridges. He left small cubes behind, message cubes each programmed with a simple message. You were not always broken. Your blood remembers. If you want to rise, meet at dawn. He left. 20, 30 more. Then, as morning light broke the gray sky, Cale waited in an old warehouse. One by one, figures entered, cans of all ages. Men, women, a few teenagers. No weapons. Just eyes filled with doubt and curiosity. Cale stood before them, Sarah at his side. I know you don't trust me, Cale said. I'm human, an outsider. But I've seen what your people once were. Builders, creators, protectors. He stepped forward, holding one of the memory cubes. The Empire stole your history. They made you forget. But it's still here. In your minds, your hands, your hearts. Some looked down. Others leaned closer. We found one of your old machines. They've taken it. They'll use it or destroy it. A man stood up. His clothes were torn, but his voice was strong. What do you want us to do? Fight with sticks? We have nothing. You have each other, Cale said. And you have your knowledge. You only need to remember how to use it. Another voice, this time, a young woman. If we stand up, they'll kill us. Maybe, Cale said. Or maybe, they'll finally see what happens when the forgotten rise. The crowd was silent. Then Sarah stepped forward. Her voice was small, but clear. I was alone. My brother, too. But Cale helped us. Not with weapons. With hope. She looked at the others. You don't have to fight like the Empire. Just refuse to be broken anymore. The silence cracked. One by one, heads nodded. Then a voice said, what do we do first? Hours later, the movement began. Not a war, not yet. But small things. Sabotage of supply lines. Messages painted on walls. We remember. We build. Again, Tikhon will not stay silent. Old machines were dug from hiding. Young Tikhon studied the ancient tools Cale recovered. The warehouse became a workshop. Every night, more came. Cale trained those who wanted to learn defense. Not how to kill, but how to protect, how to move, how to watch, how to resist. It was not an army, it was a spark. But sparks can start wildfires. And the Empire noticed the next week. A warship arrived. Dark, huge, and loud. It hovered over Zarek like a shadow. Speakers boomed across the city. All citizens are ordered to return home. Any group gatherings are illegal. Resistance will be crushed. Fear spread. Guards marched into the slums. Houses were searched. People beaten. A boy was taken for asking questions. Cale stood on the roof of a building and watched. They're scared, he said. Sarah looked up at him. So they attack. That's what fear does. Can we beat them? Cale was quiet for a moment. Then he answered, not with strength, but with truth. And unity. He opened a small screen on his wrist. The signal from the drone was still alive. I'm going to get that drone back. Sarah looked shocked. They'll kill you if you go near the station. Then I'll be careful. I'm coming with you. No. She stepped closer. I'm not a child anymore. Cale sighed. You're brave, but I need you here. You're the voice they trust. If I don't return, you will, Sarah said. Because you're the only one crazy enough to fight the Empire with nothing but hope. Cale smiled. Hope's a dangerous weapon. He looked up at the warship, still hanging above like a silent threat. They struck first. He whispered. Now, it's our move. The warship still hovered over Zarek like a storm cloud. Its engines hummed in the sky, always watching, always threatening. People stayed indoors. The markets were closed. The streets were empty. Fear wrapped the city like a cold blanket. But in the shadows, something was waking. In the backrooms, in broken buildings, and inside dark tunnels, the Tikhon people were learning again. Cale had shown them old designs from their lost past. Now, they were building, not weapons, tools. Drones for messages, energy nets for defense, jammers to block enemy comes. Each night, small groups trained quietly to learn how to move unseen, how to send silent signals, how to help each other when guards came. Cale called it the spark. Sarah called it the beginning. Inside the warehouse, Sarah stood in front of 20 young cans. She held a broken panel in one hand, and a tiny tool in the other. Her fingers moved. Quickly, you don't need to fight with fire, she said. Fight with skill. Fight with what they forgot we had. The students watched her fix a small light drone. It blinked blue. We're not broken, Sarah said. We were just sleeping. The others nodded. Outside, the city still feared. But here, in this room, hope was alive. Far across the city. Cale crouched near the wall of the military station. The signal from the stolen drone came from inside. The walls were tall. Guards were alert. Cameras scanned every angle, but Kale had a plan. He tapped a button on his wrist device. A second later, 5 small metal balls rolled down a far alley. They began to spark and buzz, noisy and bright. Guards rushed toward the noise. Kale moved. He slipped through the east gate, climbed over a storage container, and entered the side of the building. He stayed low, stepped silent. Inside the lab, lights glowed green and red. Screens showed the captured drone. Scientists studied it like vultures over a rare bone. It's powered by solar light, one of them said. Old tech, but brilliant. Can we copy it? Maybe. But it's locked. Whoever built it hid the core instructions. Kale smirked. That was Sarah's doing. She had reprogrammed the drone before they left the library. Smart kid. He slipped behind a power unit and pulled out a tiny jammer cube. He pressed it. All lights blinked off for 3 seconds. Just enough. Kale rushed forward, grabbed the drone, and dropped a fake copy in its place. It looked the same, but it was hollow inside. He moved fast, heart racing, the real drone tucked under his arm. By the time the lights came back, Kale was already outside. Back at the warehouse, cheers rose as Kale entered holding the drone. You really did it. Sarah laughed. I told you I would. He placed the drone in front of the young engineers. Fix it, he said. Make it fly. They got to work without delay. Kale sat beside Sarah. His face was tired, but his eyes were alive. They're not afraid anymore, he said. Not as much, she replied. They still feel fear, but they act anyway. That's real courage. Sarah leaned forward. What happens next? Kale looked out the window, at the sky darkened by the warship. We showed the Empire something they don't expect. The next day, something strange happened across Zarek. Drones flew over rooftops, silent and smooth. Each dropped small glowing orbs in different places, on broken statues, walls, and roads. The orbs lit up, showing messages in old Tacon writing. We remember who we are. We are not weak. We are waking. You cannot erase a people who still dream. Guards tried to shoot the drones, but they moved too fast. Within hours, the whole city was watching. People whispered, some smiled, some cried. For the first time in years, the Tacans saw their language, their history. In the open, the Empire panicked. They ordered raids. They burned homes. They arrested anyone seen near a drone. But it was too late. That night, Sarah stood on a rooftop, watching the warship above. They'll strike harder now, she said. Kale stood beside her. Let them. Not ready for a fight like that. You don't fight shadows with guns, Kale said. You fight by shining light. He pointed to the city below. All those people. They're watching. They're remembering. Every time the Empire hurts one of us, more people ask why. Sarah was quiet. Then she nodded. We keep building. We build until the day comes when they can't break us again. She looked at the stars. Do you think other planets will hear about this? They will, Kale said. Because sparks like this, they don't stay small forever. He handed her a transmitter. What's this? She asked. Our next move. The stars above Zarek looked quiet, but the ground below was ready to explode. The Empire's warship hovered like a metal god, casting shadows over the city. Its speakers now screamed warnings, day and night. Obey or be punished. The rebellion ends now. But the people no longer hid. In the streets, on walls, and even on broken rooftops, messages glowed in old Tacon writing. We remember. We rise. We are not alone. Inside the warehouse, Kale stood at the center of the room. Around him, dozens of tacks, old and young, were gathered. The stolen drone now floated in the air, repaired and shining. It flew a perfect circle above them, humming softly like a promise. Kale looked at them all. This is the moment, he said. They think fear will stop you. He pointed to the ceiling, toward the ship above. But fear no longer works. You've seen what they tried to hide. You've felt what they tried to kill. Your pride, your power, your voice. Sarah stepped forward beside him. We don't need to match their weapons, she said. We just need to show them the truth. Together. The plan was simple and dangerous. The warship's main signal tower controlled all broadcasts, messages, and drones. In the city, it was guarded day and night. But if they could tap into it, just for 1 minute, they could send a message to every screen, every speaker, and every ship orbiting above. A message the Empire couldn't ignore. Kale and a small team moved through the underground tunnels. Sarah stayed at the command post, ready to trigger the message. As they moved, Kale thought about how it all began. A little girl crying in a dirty street. No one had stopped. Except him. He clenched his fists. Let's finish this, he whispered. At the tower, guards stood in tight formation. Kale and his team used distraction drones, buzzing noisemakers that flew past the outer gates. As the guards chased them, Kale and 2 others slipped inside. They climbed fast, quiet, and without light. On the top floor, a console blinked red. The central transmitter. Kale pulled out the code disk Sarah had programmed. Are you sure it'll work? One of the Takens asked. No, Kale said. But she is. He plugged it in. The screen lit up. Accessing network. Overriding security. Ready to transmit. Kale tapped his com. Sarah, you're live. Back at the warehouse, Sarah took a deep breath. Then she pressed the button. All across Zarek, screens flickered, even on the warship's control deck. Confused officers watched as their systems were taken over. And then, her voice came through. Clear, strong, honest. My name is Sarah. I am Khan. I was forgotten, like so many of my people. But not anymore. Images played footage of the drone, the hidden library, the stolen history, the Empire's raids, the hunger, the silence. We were not always weak. They made us weak. They took our past because they feared what we could become. The image changed, showing Sarah standing beside Kale. This human heard me cry. That moment changed everything, not because he saved me, but because he reminded me who I was. Kale stood in silence, watching her speak to the stars. We don't want war. We want truth. We want to build again. And if the stars are listening, we want to be seen. Then the signal ended. 1 minute enough chaos followed. On the warship, officers shouted commands. How did they access the tower? Find the human, shut down all city networks. But it was too late. The message had already reached orbit, and further. Other ships in nearby systems had seen it. Other Tikon colonies, broken, scattered, silent for years, were waking. The Empire tried to silence it, but messages flooded in. We saw the girl. We remember too. Zarek is not alone. 3 days later, something no one expected happened. The warship left just like that. No bombs, no last attack. It lifted from the city, turned, and disappeared into the stars. Why? Maybe they feared a war of ideas. Maybe they saw something they couldn't control. Or maybe they knew the tide had turned. Weeks passed. Zarek was still damaged, still poor, but no longer silent. Workshops reopened. Schools were rebuilt. Drones flew through the sky again, not spying, but helping. And every building, every home, every alley had one phrase carved into the stone. It started with a cry. On a clear night, Sarah stood outside with Kale. She looked up at the stars. So many worlds heard us. Because you spoke, Kale said. She smiled. You made me believe I could. Kale shrugged. You did the hard part. Will you leave? Now maybe, he said. There are other cries out there. Other voices waiting to be heard. She looked at him, proud and grateful. If they're lucky, you'll find them too. Kale smiled, then turned to go. But just before walking away, he looked back and said, You don't need me anymore. You have your people, your past, and your future. Then he disappeared into the dark, and somewhere, far beyond Zarek, the stars whispered to one another. They cried once, and the galaxy listened.